So this happened right before my 20th birthday when I was in the US Navy. I was stationed at a Navy school in SC for the entirety of my enlistment, close to Charleston but not actually in the city. It wasn't uncommon for people with cars to drive into the city, and everyone was friends with someone with a car. Me and my class leader, we'll call him P, were really close, and he was friends with this New Yorker that I didn't much like, we'll call him T, but T had a car so we ended up doing a lot together. One night, after all three of us had tanked an important test, I convinced them to go for ice cream. We decided on this lil mom and pop type shop on the far side of Charleston and piled into T's truck. After we had gotten our ice cream, P went to start giving T directions. T couldn't find his way out of a shoebox, but T insisted he knew a shortcut and we needed to just enjoy the ride. We didn't have anything early the next day, so I figured EFF it, this'll probably be a funny story later when T gets us lost. So we're driving for at least twice as long as it would have taken to get back to base, but T keeps promising we're almost there. Meanwhile, we haven't seen a building in at least 10 miles and the road is so dark I feel like I'm looking into the abyss. T mentions that he has to pee, so P and I tell him to just pull over and take a leak. The road was lined with forest so he had options to save his dignity, but he insists on pulling all the way off the road. So T finds a dirt road and turns down it, and P and I look at each other and both say he needs to stop. P and I are both from the South, while T grew up in mostly NYC, so P and I both knew how real shoot first, ask questions later can be. But T kept saying he was just going to go a little further through the trees. I'm thinking about how we're going to get shot because I wanted ice cream when we break through the tree line. About 20 yards in front of us was a big bonfire that was bright compared to the light from the new moon. Immediately, my stomach dropped and P and I both started screaming at T to turn around. That's when we noticed the figures around the fire and those closing in around us. T was frozen in the driver's seat, so I reached into the front and put the truck in reverse while hitting him repeatedly in the shoulder. T slowly turned around to check behind him to back up only for him to freeze again. I turned and saw more figures closing around the trail behind us. P, by now, had pulled out a flashlight and was trying to blind the figures while repeatedly telling T to just go and that they'd move. So T starts to slowly make his way back while P's whipping his flashlight around and I'm making sure all the doors are locked and rolling up the rear windows and closing the back sliding window. The crowd parted like we were Moses and they were the Red Sea, and we made it back onto the road without any other problems. We rode the rest of the ride in almost complete silence, and the three of us had never actually spoken about it since. The only thing that was said on the ride home was when P turned to me and said, "They didn't have faces." It wasn't a spooky, kind of creepy, but one time when I was 20, I was on a drive home and it was about an 8-hour trip. There ended up being a traffic accident on the way, so I got held up, but couldn't afford to book a hotel for the night. About 4 hours from home, like 11 p.m., I was on a stretch of secluded highway and there was a car behind me, but I didn't think anything of it. The same car followed me for the next hour, but I assumed that they were just going to the same place. I ended up stopping at a gas station to grab an energy drink, and the car stopped across the road but didn't get out. Again, I didn't think anything of it. When I left, the car pulled out and followed me again. I kept driving and about an hour later pulled over at a rest stop to use the bathroom. The car, still behind me, stopped at the entrance of the rest stop, but didn't get out. At this point, I got super creeped out. I was like 2 hours from the next city, home, so I didn't know what to do. Just to be sure I wasn't going crazy, I pulled over at the next pullout. The car pulled over on a pullout behind it, but on the other side of the road. Again, they didn't get out, but just sat there. So I kept driving, and as soon as I got back into my town, I called my parents to tell them what was going on. They told me to go downtown and make 4 left turns. I did, and again, the car followed me. My parents told me to drive to the police station. The car followed me the entire way to the police station, and as soon as I turned in, they peeled off like 50 kilometers per hour over the speed limit. I went in and told the cops what happened, and they sent a patrol officer to find the guy, but I never heard anything about it. I have no clue what the person's motives were, but it terrified me. Now I'm super cautious anytime a car is behind me at night and takes the same turn I do. TLDR, a guy followed me for 4 hours straight and pulled over and watched me every time I pulled over. He ended up speeding away when I pulled into the police station. I live in a super residential, suburban area a little east of Buffalo, New York. I was driving home one night about 1 a.m. and was on my street, which is only a bunch of ranch houses, no other buildings, when I was about 8 houses down from my driveway. I go slow because people in my neighborhood leave food out for deer, and I know the one day I go speed limit I'm going to crack into one. Anyways, I'm rambling but just trying to give background and build setting, as they say. On the side of the road to my left, the driver's side, I see something lying right at the side of the road. It wasn't garbage night, and anyways we have those bug-ass cans provided by the town. I slow down. At that point I'm maybe 8 feet away and I'm shocked because it looks like a person laying there. I turn on my high beams and put my hand on the door handle. I'm about to open it. In the darkness with the headlights I can't make out a ton of detail, but it's definitely a person laying there. I see what is likely a white shirt and what seems like red on it. I'm starting to open the door when I get this feeling that I just have not encountered before. I'm not saying it to build tension, I mean I was going to open my door and get out to help, thinking it was a hit and run, and I'm one to do that risky Good Samaritan shit without second thought usually. Instead I sat back, grabbed my phone and floored it to my driveway, which was 10 seconds away anyways. Also I was driving with an expired, suspended license and I didn't want drama, to be honest, or allegations that I hit this person if it was indeed a hit and run, even if there would be no damage on my vehicle. I'm standing in the driveway with 911 going through and walking towards the sidewalk and in the direction of where I saw this person when they stand up and turn to face me. I'm being transferred to a dispatcher at this moment, and I've walked about 2 houses down towards this person at this point, but am on the other side of the street. The dispatcher comes on as this person begins running in my direction, on the other side of the street. I state my location, what is happening, and am running back towards my house, but I didn't like not seeing what this person was doing as I'm turned and running and try to walk, skip backwards, whatever. From my driveway I see this person stop. They went towards me maybe 3 houses, stagger around in circles and stumble across the street, but they don't stop on the sidewalk, they just walked into a random yard, and from my distance it was difficult to discern which, and disappeared. I explained this all to the dispatcher and that I didn't know what house, if they were going home, breaking in, cutting through a yard, or what the hell ever. They said someone was en route. I was too frantic to note the time I called, and when an officer came slowly down the street with his high beams on, I signaled for them and they pulled up, thinking I was the person reported. I explained I was the one who witnessed the situation and explained where I saw the person go. He seemed to treat it as a prank at first until I told him the direction I saw the person go. Then he seems to change his attitude and made a no-confirming statement about thinking he knew what it was about and sped off. I live a few blocks from a large apartment complex that deals in some shenanigans at times, and he went off in that direction. I never figured out what happened, but it creeped the shit out of me more than any other situation I've been in, and I've done a lot of UE-type stuff, been through major addiction shit, clean now and wasn't using any substance when this occurred, and also worked a medical examiner contract for removing the deceased, so I'm not usually shaken. It was summer 2015-ish. Over the years the exact date has gotten foggy, and I hope that doesn't take away from the experience.